Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Pursuit Live. I'm your producer, Chris. Dave has the night off. So joining us is our production manager and fill-in co-host, Rob. Rob, thanks for stopping by and filling in while Dave is off doing, whatever stupid stuff Dave does.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be on.
And I think we got a great show tonight. This is definitely an exciting one for Rob and I hope it's equally exciting for everybody out there. So please give a warm welcome to Brian Melvin, the creator of Timber Life Outdoors. Brian, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So if anybody didn't get the idea so far, this is going to be a bear heavy episode. Rob, we're going to get into this and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Robert, are you on your phone?
Yeah, hold on. Sorry. This is all new to me. I'm sorry.
Somebody get Dave back in here.
Listen, I'm sorry that two of us killed bears this year.
Well, somebody killed a big bear, and then somebody killed a smaller bear. I don't shoot small bears, so I'm.
So you passed. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So anyway, this is going to be a bear heavy episode, and I think this is kind of going to be good because this is an exciting story. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I hope you guys are too, and I hope our audience is excited for this. So, what do you guys say? You just want to jump right into this?
Let's do it.
Oh. All right. So, Brian, I kind of want to get into your background a little bit before we get into the really juicy stuff. So, why don't you kind of start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like who is Brian Melvin?
You got it. So, Jersey born and raised. I do not come from a hunting family, which a lot of people don't believe. Every time I speak with somebody, I do not come from a hunting family. Nobody in my family hunts. Nobody that I even know that ever hunted in my family just doesn't exist. I got exposed to hunting through a gym teacher in 5th grade, believe it or not, and started bird hunting with him and his dogs. My family's always loved dogs. We got into them very early in life. So that was my gateway drug. Started bird hunting with him. Then in my early 20s, got really involved into some deer hunting and got obsessed with chasing big animals, parlayed into chasing some big deer. And then about 5-6 years ago, started digging into some big bears and digging into bears, I should say, and then learning the process in which to go after some big bears, which if anyone has done it, realizes how love-hate it can truly be. The whole process of me getting from hunting into where I am now was not the typical. I didn't have the family members or the whole tradition of growing up with it. Wish I did. Had to learn on the run, had to teach myself a lot of stuff, and was lucky that got hooked up with some people that definitely helped me along the way, but a lot of it was self-taught and a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to learn. I think that most of us who kind of love it the way that we do, that's really how a lot of us kind of learned is just constant trial and error and constantly learning. It's an ever evolving process, and
it is. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning, right?
That's it. You got to play the game to win.
Yep.
That's it. And you're going to lose a few games along the way. So
100%. Yeah, it's definitely been a process. I love it. I started off, most of my younger life was all about sports, playing sports. And then once sports was done for me in college, I played lacrosse at Rutgers. Once that was done, my competitive edge kind of switched over into the hunting world, and it's been game on ever since.
Well, you're in good company then, because so yep. I do want to dig into this a little bit. Now, you're big into videography and photography, and I kind of want to look at the evolution of Timber Life Outdoors and how your passion for the outdoors really evolved the way that it did into your, starting your own brand and doing what you do now. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what clicked in your head that said, this is what I want to do?
So yeah, chasing deer in itself is hard enough, right? And you're chasing some mature animals. It's a challenge just by itself. But about 7 years ago, I started to really want to play around with some videography stuff and filming. Totally green at the concept. Really just wanted to get a camera out there and see what I could add after I shot some pretty decent animals. I figured, this would be great if I could get some footage to share with some people and maybe show some mistakes or whatnot. And that turned into an obsession pretty quickly. If you've ever done it, which I know you guys have, and anyone else out there that's listening, it is hard and you're going to mess up and you're going to lose some animals because you're going to be trying to video everything. But it's an art. It really is, and it added to that. It added to the challenge of the whole hunt itself, and it's become definitely an obsession. Definitely something I look forward to all the time now. I was pretty, like I said, pretty green early on, just some rudimentary equipment, and then recently in the last year, I really geared up, dumped a ton of money into some high-end stuff that we wanted to gear up and kind of get out there and really take it seriously. Met some good people that were in the industry that have given me a ton of information, pointed me in the right direction through some videos that I posted on my personal pages. They reached out and said, hey, we're in the industry, we're doing this, you look like you're doing some great stuff. If you get some better gear, you really could probably put out some great content. You're obviously killing stuff and you're going after some pretty mature animals. Why not try and do it for real? Absolutely, let's do it. So I figured we're not getting any younger. You might as well give it a shot. Jumped in with both feet, and that's where Timber Life came in. It was born out of the idea that we do a lot of duck hunting, a lot of deer hunting, and we do a fair amount of turkey hunting. So everything we do is in the timber. It's where I'm spending 90% of my time when I'm in the woods. That's where the name came from, where the concept came from. Obviously, we're going to be chasing everything else between going out west or chasing bears or anything else that we can around Jersey or any other state that we can get to. But it's been a quick journey in the last 2 months that we really released it. And we've only done the social so far. You've seen some pictures up there, some stories of some of our hunts. Got some hunts that are going to on video right now that we're going through the editing process, and the channel will be released shortly. I got a nice bear hunt from last week. A good buddy put on we've got a nice 550 pound bear on film, which would be a nice Jersey ad for the bear week. And hopefully we're going out in the morning to chase a nice buck from one of my buddies. So we're going to have some films that are going to be popping up and a bunch of videos that'll be popping up here pretty shortly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I would say you've been a pretty successful hunter so far. Is there something like a measure of your success that you can attribute to something? Like, is it just perseverance? What can you say that has made you a successful hunter?
I would say it would be doing what other people won't to have what other people want. That's one of my favorite lines. Everyone's life is crazy, family, kids, busy, tired, right? They're all boxes that get checked every day. And then there's the box of, okay, I'm still going to go run bait at 10:30 at night after I just put my kids down and just did bedtime, or I'm going to go and, I'm going to scout. I'm going to get up 2 hours early because I'm going to go scout that piece before I got to go to the dentist or take the kid to, get a haircut or whatever it may be. I do those things. I'm not patting myself on the back, but just answering your question, people think I'm crazy. My buddies all make fun of me because I'm nuts. I'm sending them pictures of where I am. They're like, what are you talking about, dude? What are you doing? Just part of the game, man. I'm just, if I got some time, I'm going to go chase something. I'm going to go try and find a new piece. I'm going to go scout. I'm going to try and dig something up if I don't have something somewhere else. So I would say that's the biggest thing. Just doing what other people aren't doing to try and change the narrative a little bit to, if I'm chasing something, it's going to be for a reason. But that's the main reason why I would think there would be a little bit of success. A lot of times, people measure success differently. Just because you shoot a big deer doesn't mean it's the same thing to somebody that shot a smaller deer. I mean, awesome, all for it. Shoot whatever makes you happy. But guys that are chasing big deer are definitely doing things that those other guys that aren't. That's just a fact generally.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know how to follow that. So this was a great show, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Well, obviously what you're doing is working. It's pretty clear. And that just, fast forward to this year,
Fast forward to this year. Yeah, this year's been, obviously the last 2 weeks have been great. Awesome. There's been some positivity. There's been some negativity, but it's the end of a journey that it's been a couple years in the making, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of obsession. I bet you my fiance could tell you how many hours I spent. She probably has it written down. I guarantee it. But it's been a lot, and it's been a lot of fun, and a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, you guys, I mean, if you want me to get into the whole story from the start right now, I can dig into the bear stuff now if you want.
Well, I want to ask you a question that I ask everybody before we get into this. Now, whatever you're doing in the woods, other than your license and your weapon, obviously, what are 3 things that you have to carry with you?
Okay, that's a good question. Obviously, a knife is definitely number one. Always have a flashlight on me. And third would be, it's a good question, man. I think what I always have on me. Probably cat eyes. They're always in my pack, no matter what, because there's been too many times. I do a lot of stuff at night. Like I'm running bait, again, putting the kid down, and then my fiance will go take a bath, and she's going to get ready for bed, and I got 2 hours to go do something. I'm going to be running bait from 9 to 11 o'clock, and I'm out and I'm stuff. And then if I'm going to go scout a new piece or whatever, I do a lot at night, like more than probably most people. They probably think I'm lying right now. I'm crazy, but there's people that will attest to this. I'm always in there and like, damn, I got to figure out where I'm coming back out or how I'm doing. I have those all the time. That's going to be a little different from everybody, but that's one thing I always have in my pack.
I believe you. I believe that you do that much because I know my wife can tell you. I drive her nuts. I'm out there as much as I can be.
Yep.
You know, so trust me. The fact that you live close, I'm honestly a little jealous.
It's, you know, I live close enough. I mean, where we're bear hunting and stuff, it's 45 minutes away, and it's still a little bit of a rip. But yeah, I mean, it's a great to be super efficient to live close makes a huge help, obviously, to wherever you're hunting. So that does change the game a little bit. If you're traveling 2 hours, it limits your efficiency.
Yeah,
no doubt.
All right, so I do want to ask you this before we get into this. Now Timber Life Outdoors, what would you say your vision is going forward from this point? Now I know you guys have the channel coming out, and I know you're in the process of producing a lot of content. Where do you kind of see this going? Like what's your vision for Timber Life?
Vision is basically to put out some put out some content that I'm not going to say that isn't out there, because there's some great content out there. There's a lot of channels out there now that people can learn a lot of stuff at, but there's not a lot of waterfowl stuff that is really outside of, like, see some videos that have, a bunch of shots that are taken in the air, and then a couple of guys that are high-fiving, and some shots in the dark. They're not going through how they're setting up and what the mistakes are and stuff. So again, like I said, we were big waterfowl. So that was one big driving force. I want to put some content out there that's very different than we have in the past. The other thing
you mean Duck Dynasty wasn't cutting it?
Duck Dynasty was great, one of my favorite shows, but they were a little different. Cy wasn't quite the producer you are, Chris. But and then on top of that is some of the YouTube stuff that's out there isn't necessarily what I would consider like high end, running proper angles, running the right cameras. I mean, I just dumped almost $15,000 into cameras that I plan on putting out some really nice high quality stuff with the rights that I've made. All the mistakes that anybody that's going to get into this have already made. So by no means am I saying that I'm just jumping into this and you're going to start putting out great quality, but I've had tons of videos where I've screwed up everything. And I'm at the point where I kind of want to be able to put out a better product and maybe just change it up a little bit and maybe show the mistakes. You don't see mistakes too often, and you don't see how people may fix it to then be success. That's kind of one of the big things I want to go through from the start to the end of how a product or how you're chasing one animal. You screwed up, you got on the wrong trail, you hunted the wrong wind, whatever it may be, and then you change some things up, and we ended up getting the animal down the road. Some things some guys can learn from.
I think that's very admirable, and I commend you for that, because that's something that we're big proponents of. Listen, this is real life. This is the way it is. This isn't, as I like to say, real tree road trips that we all grew up watching, that everything was perfect. And, these guys were probably hunting in high fence farms and shooting 200-inch deer every trip. That's not real hunting. That's not what it's about.
No.
So showing the mistake, showing, how do you overcome that mistake? How do you, how do you win at the end? What do I have to do to get myself from point A to point B?
Absolutely.
Even if I get lost along the way.
Yeah,
I think that's huge in this in this day and age, especially with the proliferation of outdoor social media. It's definitely something.
Most of our stuff will be done on public, a little bit on private, but most of it's on public, almost all of it. So it'll be just show you that if you get out there and you dig in, find some spots that people don't know about. Right now, e-scouting is massive. I spend countless hours. And my fiance again will tell you, I'm on my phone. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm looking at tax maps all night, and I'm looking at trying to find properties that people don't know about or they haven't been on. And yeah, I don't even know how many hours doing that, but that's something that kind of helps me find some success, that I'm finding properties that people don't really pay attention to because they may be labeled under someone else, or I finally get the information I need to go knock on that door and find out that details. But those are the big things that help out in the long run.
All right. So, Rob, do you have anything before we move forward?
With your new YouTube page and stuff, do you have like a team? Do you have guys? Do you have like is it mainly just you, or?
It is mainly me right now doing, I'll be doing all the editing. I have a couple buddies that are going to be helping me along the way with some filming, and they're going to be part of the team that's going to be, I'll be filming tomorrow. I'm going to be filming my best friend. Hopefully he knocks down a good buck. But it is right now, it's about 90% me. I have some videos that are going to go up from last year, some turkey videos that are on my personal page right now. They're going to be re-edited just to add a couple little new things. But that's, again, I love the filming part of it. Listen, I love shooting animals. You can see behind me, right? But I really love the filming concept of it. So I have no problem jumping behind the camera and getting someone else on film doing what they love as well. But right now it is 90% me doing all of the filming and everything behind it right now. So I'm hoping to build that up, but right now it's all me.
Very cool.
All right. Well, I mean, if you're looking for any new team members, I mean, listen, we just fired Dave, so he's available.
Understood. You guys need me to come out and film, you let me know. You let me know. I'm talking. I got a Zoom call on Wednesday with Tom Petrie because I've been part of his film school, and we're learning some great stuff from them. You guys know Tom. He's one of the bigger producers in the outdoor industry right now, and he's a wealth of knowledge. But yeah, I've learned a ton from him. But you guys ever need someone to film, you just give me a shout. I'm there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chris recently and Dave got me into the filming. I was never really into it because some of the deer that I was chasing, I didn't want to mess up, and I didn't want to take a chance. So for me, it's like it was that one opportunity that you get, or else you might not see it again.
I get it. I totally get it. I've had some deer where we've had to let walk. I'm after a deer this year that I've had 3 times now. Could easily have killed them. A 145, 150 class, beautiful buck, but I'm not shooting them unless the camera light's perfect.
Yeah.
So if you make that decision, get ready to smack yourself in the forehead a few times.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
So, but yeah, no, they got me into it now. I got this past last week. I got a bear, that one bear on camera that I got, and it was fun, man. It's cool. They're such beautiful animals. They really are.
Yeah.
But, anyway, should we get into it?
All right. So here's the story that everybody has been waiting for. Cape buffalo hunting. All right. So if anybody doesn't recognize Brian's face or know Brian's name by now, there is definitely something wrong with your algorithm, and you should probably reset your Facebook and Instagram because you should have seen it by now. So I don't want to take away your thunder, Brian. So why don't you open it up and tell everybody why they should know you?
Well, got the honor to shoot a pretty significant bear last week on Tuesday. Bear that I've been chasing for a couple years, which we'll get into the story in a little bit, but turned out to be a 770 dressed black bear that they gave me an estimated live weight of somewhere between 880 and 910 from the state. I knew he was big. I'll be completely honest. I knew he was big. Been chasing him for a while. I did not know he was that big. When I walked up on him, it's like a wow moment. And it's like, okay, now what? But it was an honor. It was the hardest animal I've ever chased. And again, we'll get into the story right now. But I've been all over the media positively and negatively for that reason. There's been all kinds of stuff running around, all kinds of parts of the story that have made the press. But it's definitely out there, and it's been a fun 2 weeks.
Well, I would definitely say that you've been out there because Joe Rogan,
Yeah, that was pretty neat. My phone, I mean, I walked away from my phone for 25 minutes the other day, and it just blew up when that thing aired, and it was pretty neat. That was cool to see from them,
That's awesome.
their perspective. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
that's an incredible platform, and he had some kind words, and I actually got to chat, got some messages from him that he gave me congratulations and so forth. So I was pretty pumped about that.
That's awesome.
Well, I you know, Rogan's a good guy and all, but you know, that's our biggest competition. And when we finally got you on the show, he's like, "Oh, well, I got to top this now." So he went ahead and scheduled Trump tonight.
Yeah.
So you know,
okay,
I'm like, "Come on, Joe, come
it's
on.
close.
What are you
It's
doing
close.
to us?"
That's great. That's great.
So,
all right. So let me.
Yeah, where do we even start on?
When
this?
did you?
Again, I got you.
When did you first see this bear? When did you first notice him? When did you first? When did this journey start?
3 years ago, scouting late season, I had heard the area in which I was at that had always had great bears. I was scouting late season in regards to the season, January and so forth, prior to the coming bear season, right? Just some small scouting, just see what's going on, running some cameras, so forth. And ran into him, actually saw him in person for the first time. Didn't even get him on camera till later, but I was like, wow, that was a significant bear. Like, you see a bear like that in the woods, you know it. I mean, it's immediately the way they're moving, the way they carry themselves. It's a big bear. Got him on camera and didn't really. I mean, I knew how big he was, but there was so much time between. If you're gonna bait bears or you're gonna even track bears, they cover such a big area. Unless you're in a really specific or unique area, the big guys are gonna move a lot. So I knew that I had a huge gap of time that I had to kind of wait or see where he was gonna end up. So later on, closer to the season of last year, is where I really dialed up in that same area to see if we can find him. And I was able to find him in a pretty gnarly small swamp. Some guys don't realize they bait or they look for these big bears and big timber. I'm not saying you couldn't find them there. I'm awesome if you do. Let me know. I'll come film you. My success has been more on looking for the gnarly, nasty, wet swamps where the big bears like to be. Found him in one of those, dialed him in for about 6 weeks before the season, really tried to just focus on his movements and get him on the bait. He never left that bait for about 3 weeks. Stayed right there day and night. I have thousands of pictures of him. 3 weeks before the season, he just up and vanishes for no reason. Kept the bait clean, fresh, so forth. He disappears. He moves about 3/4 of a mile away to another swamp. I find him again. I'm running a net of cameras just trying to locate him. Hangs out there for about another week. Does it again to me. Disappears completely again for no apparent reason. There was an incredible amount of pressure at that time. A lot of guys don't, like you guys know, a lot of guys don't run baits until like the week before the season. It's that weekend before, and all of a sudden there's 30 baits in the woods, right? Yep. That hadn't happened yet. He just up and left. He just did not like what was happening. Whatever he felt, he was gone. I had heard stories once I got involved with him and talked to some guys. I had heard stories for years past that guys had been after him. And he did the exact same thing. He would just get up and vanish for no reason. Guys couldn't find him. I'm a little nutty. So I started knocking on doors, started talking to people, covered the ground pretty quick. Was able to find him again up until the day before opener. I had him on the bait for 4 days straight. Opening morning came 6:30. He was on the bait at 4:30 till 6:30. I knew I couldn't get on the bait. Had to wait for him to leave to try and slip in behind him so we can get him. In New Jersey, you got to be 100 yards away. You got pick a trail, travel route, whatever you want to do. We'll get into that later. But he left at 6:30 and was gone for 6 months. Disappeared on him. Never showed back up. None of the other guys in the area found him. Could not relocate him. He went into a couple areas that I didn't have permission to go, so we couldn't get in there. Till this year. This year, he shows back up in May on one small camera I had on a travel route that he had used in the past. Get that picture. Start going crazy, obviously, figuring out where he is, how he's moving, what's going on. He's only there for about 2 weeks. Again, he vanishes. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Then the obsession really kicked in, got really bad. Went and put out about 5 baits in about a 4 square mile area in the properties that either had permission or state property that I could get in. And sometimes these bears will hold up and only move like 400 or 500 yards from bait to or to bed if they feel comfortable enough. And sometimes they'll roam. Sometimes they'll cover some massive ground. I could not get this bear on any of those baits. I ended up getting permission on another piece of property next or very close to those other baits and located him in a nice swamp that he was transitioning between a smaller swamp and a larger swamp. It was actually a property that I had spoken to the year before, and I had just had to reacquire some permission. Turns out bear was doing exactly what I just spoke about. He was only transitioning from about 400 yards away, from a little swamp to a big swamp, and he would walk the same line. I didn't know this at the time. After running a whole bunch of cameras on the bait sites inside the swamp, I was able to determine where that travel route was, how he was moving through it on the different winds. We can get into that a little bit later. But this bear didn't make mistakes very often. If you walked on his trail too many times, or if you really scented the area up, he would get away from that daylight. And he daylighted a few times early on. But as we get closer to the season, the only time I would get him in daylight was when he would stay on the bait overnight later into the morning. He did not show up in the afternoons in the middle of the day. He didn't make those mistakes. As we've discussed, and you guys know New Jersey, whoever's listening right now, if you don't know Jersey rules, you have to be 100 yards away from bear bait in New Jersey to hunt them. So it adds a little bit of a wrinkle that you have to know their travel routes, know where they're coming from, know where they're going, and kind of intercept them. This kind of bear, even if we could hunt over bait, I don't think I probably would have. It probably wouldn't have been very successful, mainly because he always used the wind. If the wind was wrong, where my bait was, he could only come in from a couple different winds because he couldn't get behind it on a certain wind. And the days that wind was there, he would not show because he couldn't do it safely, right? So he never really made those mistakes of coming in just willy-nilly. We turned the bait site, basically almost baited it every day from the last week and a half. Kept them on pattern, waited for the right winds, and made the plan. Ran a bunch of cameras on the travel routes, determined the one travel route that he was moving on the most during the northwest wind, which is what the predominant wind would be for the October hunt. Usually, unless we get some crazy weather, really warm weather. So that was the plan, to try and wait for him to use that travel corridor to get on the bait. I'd get a cell camera picture once he's on the bait, jump back on that travel corridor first thing in the morning, or actually it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and wait for him to come off that bait, and hopefully he would do it later in the morning, not in the dark, and I'd have to just watch him kind of a silhouette walk past me if it wasn't legal time. That was the plan from about 3 weeks out. And as we kind of getting closer to the season, there was a little bit of other hunters in the area, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of this, a little bit of that changed his pattern a little bit. But it was able to dial them in with the right baits and keep them tight. If you're hunting in New Jersey, no matter if you're on 4 acres or if you're on 30 acres or 200 acres, you're going to have other guys around. That's just part of Jersey. And there's always going to be a little bit of this and a little bit of that's going to go along with it, which if you're going to hunt here, you just kind of have to deal with it and work through it, which we did. Comes down to the last couple days here of the season. And he actually disappeared on me for about 2 days. And I was running, I think I mentioned it before, I was running a bunch of satellite baits. I had 4 other baits that were around him in about a 5 to 1,000 yard circle. He never hit any of them. I never could get him on any of those other baits. I either thought, okay, he's either completely gone or he just is staying tight and he's just not, something's pushing him off. Again, maybe some pressure from other hunters, whatever it may have been. Saturday, Sunday, he was perfectly patterned again, waiting for that perfect wind. Most guys, or I shouldn't say that. Monday, I didn't want to hunt because we had a southwest wind. That was the wrong wind for that travel corridor that I knew I could hunt. It was open enough that I could get in there real tight to his bed when he was going to be heading back. So I had to wait for Tuesday morning, which we were going to get that nice steady 8 to 10 or 12 mile an hour northwest wind, which is exactly what happened. So middle of the night, he was on the bait. I was texting my best friend, going back and forth like, he's on the bait, man. Stay awake because I'm going to need you, if we go in the morning. And I didn't want to park. Here's another thing that I haven't really talked to anybody about. Where he was transitioning from one little swamp to a big swamp was over a person's driveway. And where I was going to have to park my truck for the permission that I had on the property would have been pretty close to that path. So my buddy, being a great friend that he is, got up at 3:30 in the morning and went to drop me off so I could jump into that property and not have my truck there, there was no sign of anyone being there. So he would feel perfectly capable and perfectly safe. Got down that path, set up right over his trail that he's used 1,000 times, and just waited. Got some pictures on it. You guys have probably seen. I put some trail cam pictures of him leaving the bait at 6:52 in the morning, and he did what he had done. He came right to the, which this was actually pretty cool. He came right to the road and waited. And I've never seen an animal. I mean, I've seen deer wait, but he's literally turning his head back and forth, looking, waiting. I mean, he was really smart. Crossed the road, got on his trail. He hung up actually at about 45, 50 yards from me, which I was a little surprised about. Maybe some pressure, whatever that may have been. But he started angling away from me at 45 yards. Now, where I was set up was in a really kind of a gnarly, tight swamp with the thin saplings and a ton of them all stacked in there. If you've ever been in a tight swamp, you know what I'm talking about, where I couldn't get super high because I had to get above the ground brush, but I had to stay below the canopy. So I was only between 12 and 14 feet. If I went any higher, I was going to kill my shooting lanes. So I got to that 12-foot mark. He hooked at about 45 yards, got to an opening where I knew I had either take that shot or I had to wait to about 60. Lucky enough, he was quartering away, smoked him at 45, put a good one in there. He ran across a road, went up a rock cliff, and I saw him disappear. As soon as I got out of the tree, called my buddy. He came, got me, and we started on the trail immediately. And as soon as we got on the trail, we saw it was like a paint can. I was like, all right, man. I knew I put a good hit on him, but it's a 900-pound animal walking through the woods. You just never know, right? So once you start seeing the red just pouring out everywhere, it was a little bit sigh of relief, but I wasn't going to count my chickens until I had the actual animal in my hands. We start tracking, and it's one of the first times I was really nervous. We were going through some grass that was about head high, and you're tracking slowly, very slowly. So I'm like, he's either dead right here or he's alive under a tree. And he ended up crossing over through that brush. Thank God. We came out the backside. He went up a huge rock cliff. We found the blood, so that was pretty easy. We got up to the top, and he was actually bedded right there. I had the choice to either just let him expire, which I knew he was going to be gone very quickly, or put another arrow in him. We don't want any animals to suffer. We want a clean kill. Put a second arrow in him. He got up, walked about another 30, 40 yards, and that was it. And he was over. And I was, once he was down, then the celebration started, and it was awesome. Then you get up close to him, and it was holy shit. What do we do now?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was you walk up again. I knew he was big. I honestly, I thought he was like 750-ish live. And then when we got up to him, I was like, wow, dude, he's way bigger than we thought, way bigger. And I got lucky enough that where he did expire, it was on private property, and the property owner was amazing. He's actually from Alberta and grew up with bear hunting. So he knew the story. He came out and he's like, is that a grizzly or is that a black bear? What is that? So it was pretty neat. He hung out with us while we got the animal out. And the other part of the story is I'm getting some questions, and guys are like, oh, you're an idiot for gutting the bear. What are you thinking? If you've bear hunted enough, and especially if you've gone after big bears, if this was December or January, it's different. In October, and that's starting to get warm in the morning, the sun's up, you got a little bit of time, and you guys are nodding your heads. So you know what I'm saying. Those bears spoil fast.
Yeah.
Really fast. So it was a no-brainer. We had to get him off the property. We didn't want to gut it there. We took it to a dear friend of mine's house. We got him hung up, got him gutted before we took him to the check station. I knew that if we didn't gut him and then tried to bring him to the check station, it might have turned into a little bit of a circus and pictures and this and that. I'm not losing an animal. That's not my game. I wasn't planning on it. I know some guys I've heard that some guys that are, out that have gone for the world record weight record, like 2 or 3 of the bears have spoiled because they were just taking pictures and getting weight. I don't care about that. I wasn't chasing a record by any means. It was a story with an awesome bear that we were chasing for a while, and I wasn't going to let it waste or go to spoil. So we got it out. We got it on the scale, 770 gutted. They gave me the, again, 880 to 910, which is definitely the largest black bear with a bow in New Jersey. I'm being told by multiple people, multiple outlets, that the largest black bear, if you do some research, you'll see was 780 with a bow from North Carolina last year, not gutted. So I'm about 100 pounds over, if you will. In theory, again, I know he will never have a live weight. I'm okay with it. I got all the meat. I'm picking it up from Tom the Butcher this weekend, and it's going to be great for the summer barbecues and all kinds of good stuff. So it was awesome. It was an awesome journey. I learned a ton from the bear. He was by far the smartest animal. He never really made the same mistake twice. That piece that I was in, that I shot him in, I did not go in before I went to hunt it. I actually scouted it from the road with binoculars because I didn't want to walk in on the trail. I didn't want to go in there and push him out because I knew it was a small chunk. It was only, I think it's like 8 acres or 6 acres, and it's predominantly the swamp. So I know he was just in the core of that, coming in and out to the bait. And he knew that he was fine in that travel corridor, and I never wanted to change that. And it worked. In the past, I had pushed in sometimes in some closer areas. I've maybe pushed a little bit and either lost him or other bears. And we were talking earlier about big bears going nocturnal because they just have that sixth sense and they just seem to always do it. This bear just had a small window in the mornings where sometimes he'd leave the bait at 6 o'clock or sometimes he'd leave it at 7 o'clock. And weather was better. The wind was perfect. It was a little cooler just in that morning than the week before. And he stayed there just a little bit longer that morning. And it worked out. And I got lucky enough to get a shot off and get it done. So the shot was, I took out one lung and cut half of the second lung. I am shocked at the amount of blood that came out of that animal, and he was still alive. But again, he's 900 pounds. He's not a 250-pound deer. That was a lesson for me because every 15 feet, I'm like, this thing's got to be dead. He's got to be dead. He's got to be right here. And we got up there, and he couldn't move, so it was over. But we did use the second hour, but did put a second shot in him just to call it a day. So it was awesome. It was a blast. It was an incredible hunt. I don't think I'll ever top it, and that's okay with me. But it was a lot of fun, and an honor to chase that animal. Again, I learned a ton from him.
So what an experience. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was a blast. It really was. Again, and I had some great friends along the ride that have been with me for the ups and downs with it. And big shout out to them. They know exactly who they are. And they dealt with a lot of the drama during the hunt with some other hunters and after the hunt with all the negativity. So they've been along for the ride for the whole thing. So it's been a journey for a lot of us, not just myself. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun.
So with all your satellite baits and everything else like that, who did you use? Where did you get it? What are your thoughts?
Okay. So big shout out to Kelsey Burgess, who is a lot of guys in the state use him for his bear baits. He has got the best bulk baits out there for New Jersey. He'll probably get you anywhere else. If you're in another state, you could probably reach out to him. He can get them. But in New Jersey, he runs out of Penwell Mills, and he does some great stuff. Huge bulk baits that I was using, that he was putting up some custom blends for me. Some big trail mix blends. If you're going to chase some big bears, you need a lot of bait, and you need fresh bait, and you need to keep it going so they don't either get bored or it's the barrel's empty for 2-3 days and they're just going to go find another bait and they're going to change their pattern. So it has to go. I was running bait every day, if not every other day, for the last month of the season. And Kelsey definitely helped me out with that. My buddy Adam also hooked me up with another connection, which we were running the big baits. A lot of the guys, if you really dig into the bear hunting, if you just run big baits, like a lot of guys use the donuts and the sweets and the cookies and all that stuff, that's all great, but it doesn't last long. If you get a lot of baits, a lot of bears on your barrels, they're going to clean that out in 24 to 48 hours, and then your barrels are empty and they're moving on. Having that mixture, those big baits and those small baits, like a trail mix or cookie crumbles or something that they have to work for a little bit, makes your baits last a little bit longer, and obviously keeps the bears on your pattern a little bit longer and gives you a little bit break between having to do your baits. I've run into a lot of bears that don't necessarily like barrels. I've had some big bears that you put a barrel out, the bear's gone. You run your pattern, you run just a pile on the ground, their backs. It's not something you got to figure out. But having those bulk baits from Kelsey was key to keeping that bear happy. And there was other guys in the area that were running baits too. But he patterned on mine pretty hard, pretty heavily. A, because I was pretty consistent with him, and B, I cleaned my sights, which I think is some of my buddies think I'm nuts, but I clean my sights pretty regularly. I don't. If you got like mushy bagels or donuts that are soaked and getting moldy and stuff, I clean them every couple 3-4 days. I'll go in there and I take them all out. I don't let them sit there because I've had bears just disappear on a bait site, and I'm like, what the hell? There's still a ton of stuff here, but there's a lot of crap on the ground too, and they don't seem to like it. But yeah, the bulk baits and the big stuff, a nice mixture of both and changing them up, I think makes a big difference. And I think a big thing is a lot of guys focus on the sweets around here. Up north, a lot of guys focus on meat. Our bears don't, at least I shouldn't say our bears. The bears that I have baited, the bears I have chased, don't seem to touch the meat. You could use deer meat. I don't care what you use. I've had them stand on, venison or steaks or whatever you want to buy and put it out there. They'll literally stand on it to get inside the barrel to get the donuts. But I think there's a big difference between just putting your big bait, sweet baits out there. I think it gives them I've seen it happen where the bears get like almost like the runs and their stomachs get bad. And you get these, if you're running your baits, you're going to know you're going to get there. There's going to be, bear poop everywhere. And if you run a protein based like peanuts or almonds or something like that, it seems to firm them up and they don't get that stomach issue or whatever they're going to have. And you get normal crap piles all over the place. And they don't seem to disappear as often. They seem to stay on it. And I could be totally wrong. That's just been my take. Once I start mixing in those peanut proteins and so forth, they seem to almost never leave, which is obviously a good thing.
I would venture to say you're not wrong, considering your success.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, before I shot this bear, I shot a 400, and then last year we had a ton of bears, but I was after this specific bear. I had 2 500s that could have shot, but I wasn't going to shoot anything until I found this bear, and I was again completely obsessed.
Yeah, let the little ones walk.
There's some big bears out there all over the state. I just realized this tape is up here. There's some big bears all over the state. Guys are chasing them all over. They're not just in one area by any means. I was lucky enough to my buddy that helped me out with this bear. I put him on a 550 later in the week, and which I have a full video on. We're gonna put that up. It was an awesome bear, a beautiful black face bear. It was really cool looking. He made a shot and we recovered it in the morning. But again, I got obsessed with this one bear. He got under my skin a little bit. I built up a great relationship with the people in the neighborhood that he keeps jumping from. And I had housewives that were coming up to me like, did you get him yet? Did you get him yet? He ruined my pool cover again. He destroyed my lawn furniture. He broke our shed. And it was a constant dialogue with all these people. He chased after my dog. He ran us back in the house. It was constant stories like that, just kept going in the whole neighborhood. He was really easy to determine what he was. He had a big scar down his leg, and obviously his size. He had a scar on his face too. So there was no mistaking him. Everybody knew the bear. There was no question.
That's awesome.
No, yeah, it was a cool journey. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, I learned a ton. It was a lot of work. If you're going to decide to chase big bears, it is a love-hate, man. It is a ton of work. It is not something that is, I would say, take lightly, because it is just gonna, it's gonna get to you a little bit, but it's a blast too. I mean, anyone that's done it knows it's a lot of fun.
It's a rush.
It is a rush. It is a rush. They are the smartest animals I have chasing a lot of deer, going out west, chasing elk. The big bears, man, they talk about, they have that sixth sense, and they just know, man. I've had them just turn into, they're 150 yards out and you got the wind perfect, but they just look up and you're like, all right, it's over. Yeah, it's over. All right, we got to come back a different way, change things up. But that's what makes it fun. It's a blast.
No, you're absolutely right. And their sense of smell blows everything else out of the water. That wind changes and it's over. And they're
absolutely,
you're not seeing them again.
Yeah. It's gonna. You're 100% right. They use the wind like nothing I've ever. There was a huge bear that I was after, that another couple of my buddies were after, that no one has gotten yet. He's big. He's up there. He's going to be pretty close, and he's still alive. And I'll never forget the last time I saw him. He hooked me. This was 5 years ago. He hooked me at like 140 yards, and he just went up on top of a hill and sat there. And he knew. I couldn't fully see him. I just knew he was sitting there once he crossed over and just sat there. And I could just see once in a while, he just put his nose up. It's like, all right, it's over. I left, got out after dark, and he was on my bait in 10 minutes. You suck. And he never daylighted ever again. And he was gone. Yeah. So, but that's part of it, man. That's what makes it fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a blast. It was a good time.
We did have a question from the audience here, and I'm kind of curious too. I saw the size of your sled, but how do you even go about getting an animal like this out of the woods? Because
So the sled was not mine. That was my buddy Eddie Robillard, who I'll give him a plug right now. He's a big bear guy in Jersey. He knows a shit ton about bears. His mom actually shot a 680, I believe it was 680 here, a big bear in a relatively close area to where I was, but. He's all about bears. I mean, he's got a lot of bears. He had that sled, which I am so thankful for, because there was nothing else that bear was fitting in. So crazy story is that the bear actually died on a sloped lawn. He died on a green lawn, really. When he came up the rock cliff, there was a house right there. Me and Eddie alone got that bear into the truck. Now, hold on. I know. That's what everybody says.
Now, listen.
I mean, yeah, me and Rob could get stuff into a truck, too. I'm an excellent equipment operator. I could sit there and pick it up.
Listen, I believe it.
We got lucky enough that
I believe it.
He was the bear that was a extremely sloped hill, and we was able to back the truck up to 25 yards away and slide the bear. We literally just dumped him into that sled, kicked him over. He got into the sled. We grabbed the strap on the sled, and gravity took over. And he literally slid into my truck. I wish I could say it was harder. I truly wish I could say it was harder. Now, where it was hard was once we got him in the truck, we got him out, we got him to Eddie's, and we got to get him out of the truck and get him winched up. Getting him out wasn't terrible. It took 4 or 5 guys, and we dragged him out. We dropped him. We couldn't, obviously couldn't hold him. And then we got him winched up. The problem was getting him back in the truck. That took 7 guys, and we almost didn't make it.
Yeah.
And that was the trick. That was a rough one. But getting him out of the woods, I wish I could say we were on the mountainside in the rocks for 7 hours, and I'd be lying. I would be completely lying. I got
honestly,
super lucky.
I wouldn't want that.
No, I didn't want it either. But when I tell people their story, they're like, "There's no way 2 people got him out." I'm like, I hear you. I wouldn't believe it myself, but I'm telling you right now, that's what happened. So awesome. It was relatively easy in that concept. Thank God the property owner was who he was, and he was an absolute gentleman. He was jacked up. He loved it, and he hung out with us while we got it done. And again, we didn't got him there. We got him to Eddie's, and then we field dressed him, and then got him to the field and got him to the check station. So,
man, we look like amateurs now, Rob.
Yeah. Struggling, sitting there, dragging a 300 and something pound black bear out.
Dragging that thing out, dumping it out of the sled like 4 or 5 times, trying to get it in the truck. Like,
hey, listen, we did do the same thing. We backed the truck up as far as we could on a hill.
Yep, I get you. I earned my stripes a little bit during the week. Another buddy, Eddie, shot a great bear, like a 630 live, I think.
Wow.
And he shot it in a pretty gnarly, really rough swamp that had to be cut out. And there was like 7 or 8 of us that were just literally moving the sled like 2 yards at a time.
Yeah.
For I don't even know how long it was, but that's the typical story, right? That's the normal.
Yeah.
I'm glad mine wasn't. I'll be honest with you, because 900 pounds is a lot, and it's just you can't even, I could barely pick up his head. I'll be honest with you.
I couldn't imagine.
I wish I had better pictures with him, because it was only me and Eddie at that point, and I couldn't do anything with him, to be honest with you. I couldn't do anything in the field with him because we couldn't move him. So it is what it is. It worked out great. We got him out. We saved the whole animal. But yeah, it wasn't a crazy story. I wish it was. It was a funny story. It worked out great, and everything turned out perfect. But yeah, we got lucky. I got really lucky.
So what do you think you're gonna do with them?
Plan is full mount.
Okay.
So yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
But me and my fiance have been looking for a house, so a new house. We're gonna be looking for a bigger basement, and need a spot to put him up. Got to go through some mounts here. I've been talking to Charlie when I was there dropping off the animal. He's like, "What do you want to do?" And I said that. He's like, "All right."
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna be big. But Charlie's great. He does some great work, and he'll get it done. And I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be
absolutely
should be pretty special.
Yeah, he did my full.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, it came out awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. He does great work. He does some great stuff. Some of the stuff you're seeing behind me is his work as well. And we'll see. It's gonna be fun. I gotta find a good corner that maybe there might not be a couch in the basement, but the bear will be there.
It might need its own room.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Very nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Right,
looking forward to it.
So we're not really like a tactics driven show here or anything like that, but I do kind of want to get into your bow setup. Like what are you shooting?
I'm shooting an older bow, believe it or not. It's a Hoyt Vector Turbo, and it's I've shot every new bow for the last 6 years, and that bow is at 350 feet per second, and it's an older bow, but I just haven't found one that I loved more that was shooting better than me. So I haven't bought a new one. That being said, awesome bow. Love it. I've killed close to 100 deer with it. Bull elk, now a couple bears. My arrow setup is kind of where it really gets to nitty gritty. I'm shooting a Victory Extortion shaft, which is the stainless steel ribbon shaft. I think that now they've changed it to the Rip or a new version of it, but it's a heavy setup with a Sever 2.0 broadhead. Altogether, it's a 535 grain arrow, which is definitely heavier than most. I prefer it just for the reason I want penetration. I'm glad I was shooting it on this guy because I put a great shot on him and I only got him up to the fletchings. I did not get a pass through.
Wow.
And no way. And when I got to him, I realized I had 9 inches of fat on either side of his body. So it was like shooting through ballistic gel, then ribs, then meat, then organs, then ballistic gel again, right? So it did the trick. Don't get me wrong, got great penetration, but I was shooting a lighter arrow setup. I probably might not have gotten through to that second lung and done some of the damage I did. But the Voight Vector Turbo with the Extortion, with the Sever broadhead, and I got Nocturnals on the back end, which I wish I could have filmed this hunt. It was a plan of mine to film this hunt, but where I ended up having to hunt, I had to get in light and tight, and it just wasn't going to happen. So again, I didn't want to go into that area and set up a spot for where I was going to film and all that stuff, and it just had to be done. Had to get it done. But like I said, we got a couple good hunts coming up here. But yeah, that heavy setup it makes a big difference. On deer, I mean, I haven't gotten a non-pass through on 6 deer so far. My elk it blew through and stuck in a log 30 yards behind it and couldn't get the broadhead out. I mean, it just hits like a hammer. So I love it.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. Now, obviously, you could kill anything with a field point if you hit it right.
Yeah.
But I know I've learned, and I think Chris knows the same thing, is with these bears, you want to put as big a hole in them as possible.
Yeah.
So that 2-inch,
yeah.
You can't,
Yep. It was a mixed bag there. A lot of guys have reached out to me. Why weren't you shooting like a 1.5 or a 1 inch for penetration? I was like, I'm shooting a 535 for the penetration, and I needed the 2 inch to do some damage in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was the key. So I shot on an elk. I went down to 135 just because 1.5 because I was shooting longer distances, and wasn't sure what kind of kinetic energy I was going to lose downrange at 60 or 70 yards or something like that. But I knew this hunt was not going to be something like that. It was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be 40 yards. I thought it was going to be a 20-yard chip shot and ended up being 45 yards, which was fine. But yeah, that weight again. The weight is great if you're running multiple pins. This might be beating a dead horse here, but if you're running multiple pins, your pin gaps are going to be bigger. I run a single pin, so it doesn't matter to me. I'm ranging 3, 4, 5 times before I'm shooting, and trying to find that exact number and then let it rip. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it works out. It's good. Gets the job done.
I do want to touch on something because there are a lot of anti-hunters in New Jersey, and I do kind of want to broach the subject a little bit. But I do want to mention if you could get into some of the negative backlash, after this all became public.
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty quickly that day it started on social media with the first post, which I think was News 12 or NewJersey.com. I think maybe it was the first social media post, and they went nuts. A lot of negativity focused on me, which I don't care. Outside of the hunting community, those people don't really necessarily have an idea of what we're doing or how we're doing it. So I didn't think too much of that. I got thick skin. I kind of expected some of it. Day 2 is kind of where it ramped up a little bit, and somehow they got a hold of my number and started calling me with some death threats and started threatening my family, and that got a little crazy. That was a little bit much for me. Again, and I've made this quote before. I am a staunch advocate for the Second Amendment, freedom of speech. Everybody needs to be able to say what they want to do, say what they want to say, and as long as you're not threatening somebody, you can say what you want to say. Is kind of what I want to say right now. I have no problem with you disagreeing with me. I have no problem with you having a problem with what I'm doing. But as soon as you turn it into you're going to threaten to harm me or someone else I love with, it's where you kind of lose me, right? So that happened a little bit for that first week. Obviously, social media, Facebook, Instagram, I have so many messages from people telling me how much of a scumbag I am, and they hope I get gutted like the bear. They hope a hunter shoots me, or the next bear gets me, or whatever. It's going to happen. It's starting to slow down. But the big stuff was the people trying to show up at the house or show up at my work, or even trying to find out where my fiance works, or threaten us. That's where it got a little nutty. I think it's just over the top. I think it kind of is counterproductive to their views or what they're trying to say. It's kind of ridiculous. But again, it slowed down, ignored it. We're moving on. That's pretty much where we're at.
I think that's the best way to do it, is just don't give them the voice. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
And
there was a bunch of guys people that were on social media that were trying to friend request me. I've never got more friend requests in my entire life. And I've never looked at people's profiles more carefully in my entire life. I can't tell you how many people that I made the mistake of, like 3 people, I think, that faked me out. And then they just went nuts with all kinds of stuff. But the messages on Facebook, the messages on Instagram, they're starting to die out, and that's fine. But a lot of them don't understand the situation. They don't live in bear country. They don't have to deal with bears constantly. Most of the people that I spoke to in that area that live with bears every day, or that I asked for permission on their property, were pro bear hunting. Go ahead, go in there. We understand it's a management hunt. We understand that you guys aren't, wiping out the bears. It's 1 week long out of the year for the archery segment. One segment in October, one segment in December. They were all for it. They deal with these bears every day in their garbages, or in their cars, in their sheds, or their backyard, and their kids can't be in the backyard. Those people are not the people that are giving me the negativity. It's the people that don't live there that are basing their statements off of emotion that they have no context for, right? But it's starting to slow down, and everything's starting to stay positive now. Thank God.
Good.
Well, I think that's something that a lot of these anti-hunters don't truly understand, or don't care to understand, is that wild animals very rarely die from old age.
Yeah.
They're either getting hit by cars, dying from disease, starving, or they're getting eaten by another animal while they're alive.
Right.
Like that's the way it is. So putting a shot on an animal that it expires in a couple minutes.
Yep.
Like to me, it's and you're eating it. Hunters. That's why we're doing it, to eat.
Yep.
To put food on the table for our families.
100%.
So it's
bear's going to be used. Everything's being used from the bear. A lot of one thing that some people don't know is we donated a bunch of the fat from the bear that's being donated to a lady in New Jersey who does bear soap. Yeah, the soap and the candles and lotions and all kinds of stuff. And that's great. Yeah. I mean, everything's being used that can be used, and the bear is not going to waste. That was a big thing I talked about on 101.5s. The guys Bill's video was asking me. He's like, and actually from that interview, some people, a lot of it's backed off because I think people realized that the bear wasn't being wasted. It wasn't just skinned and tossed. No way. Not happening. Everything's being used.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It's all staying positive now. Hopefully it stays there, and they'll find someone else to bug.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
Bear, we got segment B coming up, and there's always next year. So
that's true. Very true. Very true.
But I do kind of want to ask you, after this, like just as a personal feeling, now that you've kind of accomplished this, where do you see yourself as a hunter? Do you see that this can't be, is this your pinnacle? Is this the peak? What's next?
I don't know if there ever really is a peak, because I like anything else. I'm big into dog training. I run the dogs, stuff like that. The day you stop learning is the day you probably should stop doing it, right? That's kind of my take on a lot of things in life. So the peak, no, I think what I'm looking forward to most as a hunter is I have a 1.5-year-old son who's asleep above me right now. In 10 years, when he's out, that'll probably be my peak, and I'm running around the woods, maybe filming him or something like that, right? That's going to be that's what I'm really looking forward to. For me, until then, we're going to chase some fun animals and hopefully get some great footage of a bunch of buddies, and hopefully help some other people out that are either starting off hunting or want to learn something new. And I don't know, again, peaking, I I don't know if it'll ever happen, but until then, I'm just going to keep grinding, keep doing my crazy stuff, and keep running bait in the middle of the night until I run out of gas.
Well, I mean, we'll revisit the peaking if we can get you on the dark continent.
There you go. There you go. I'm not going to say no. That's for sure. Definitely not going to say no.
That's awesome.
So, I do have to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite bear recipe?
Ooh, recipe? I don't know if I have a recipe, but I definitely have. I definitely love bear sausage and bear pastrami are my two favorite bear specialties, if you will. I just ordered about 40 pounds of sausage that I'm picking up and kibasi and so forth because everybody seems to love it. It's a great way to introduce people to game meat that is really easy. We do a lot of barbecues and a lot of family functions in the summer, so when I bring it out and everybody's like, what is that? I'm like, it's just some sausage. We're just going to have some sausage and cut it up. And like, wow, that's really good. And I'm like, great. Yeah, it's a bear. They're like, what? And it opens a door for a lot of things. I mean, we eat a ton of the bear in different ways, put it in a bolognese sauce, make hamburgers out of it, whatever you could think of, we're going to do it. But that is probably my favorite way just because I'm bringing a lot of other people into it and letting them experience it and enjoy it. So it's definitely one of our main go-tos when we get bear. That's why, again, I got 40 pounds of it coming.
That's awesome.
Yep. And we got a lot of it coming. Tom just hit me up. So I got $450 worth going to pick up. And that's which is a great price. I'm not saying anything about that, but there's a lot there. We didn't skimp on it, so we'll be eating it for a while.
Getting a new trophy room, but you should be worried about getting a new freezer.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding. Definitely not kidding.
All right, so now I do want to give you the opportunity, if you could just plug your social media. Where can people, the right people, obviously, where can they find Timber Life Outdoors? Where can they get your content and kind of help you along in this journey?
So we have the socials up right now on Facebook and on Instagram, and both of them are listed under Timber Life Outdoors. Pretty easy to find. We spoke about earlier, the channel is up, but there's nothing on it right now. We're going to be launching some videos here shortly, and then once that starts, we're going to keep rolling with that. But right now, socials up on Facebook and on Instagram. You'll see some stories on there. You'll see some success stories, and you'll be seeing some more people on there. Right now, it's pretty much just me. But as we roll through this, I got some guys that are going to be digging into a little bit as animals are dropping and be putting some more stories, some success stories, and some not some success stories. Like I said, we're gonna dig into a little bit of the nitty gritty of not all rainbows and puppies in the hunting world all the time, right? But yeah, it's Timber Life Outdoors on Facebook and in Instagram, and the YouTube channel will be launching shortly. I'll have obviously links and everything on there shortly once it's up there on both those sites. So I appreciate it.
Man, Dave is going to fit in well with you. Not all puppy dogs and rainbows.
Yeah,
and he duck hunts too. So he's your kind of guy.
We do a lot of duck hunting. I got my lab is right there in there sleeping right now. So we're going to be training this weekend, getting ready for the second split. We do a lot of duck hunting. So.
Well, I'm looking forward to following it.
Absolutely.
I'm not as much of a duck hunter anymore, but I listen. At one point in my life, I was about it. So
I got you.
I'm still there with you.
I barely even pull the trigger anymore. Now I'm just calling, running the dog, and filming. My buddies are spoiled, very spoiled.
It's weird how you get that way. That eventually it's not about that. It's about just being out there and enjoying it.
Yep. Once I picked up the camera, a lot of things changed for me. Again, I don't get me wrong. I chase some animals like this bear and stuff like that. I get a little I was picky. Now I'm really picky, but I really enjoy having the camera in my hand now and the art behind catching the hunt, all the different angles, telling the story. The editing is a love-hate relationship that I'm learning to love a little bit more. It is quite the process. I understand why they have an entire team generally just for the editing part of it, because it's massive. But it's part of it. So learning as we go, but it's a blast. It is so much fun. I really jumped in with both feet, and I don't think I'll ever stop.
You hear that, Rob? It takes a while. I don't want to continually hear bitching every time. It's, oh, when's that video going to be ready? Can you send me that?
When it's been a year. All right.
I work for a living.
Yep.
I work for a living. I produce a talk show every week, and then I also go build stuff.
If that's what you call it. You call it working.
You know. I show up to work.
Yeah.
So, all right. If you could, one more time, Brian, just tell everybody, real quick where they can find your social media.
So Timber Life Outdoors is on Facebook. And for Instagram, it's also Timber Life Outdoors. I'll give you it's Timber_Life_Outdoors for Instagram. And again, socials are all up. You'll see a bunch of pictures, see a bunch of stories on there now. And YouTube, which will be Timber Life Outdoors, will be up. I'm not going to put an exact date on it now, but we're hoping it'll be up here before the new year. And hopefully we'll have a bunch of new videos up there, a couple from last year and a couple hunts from this year as we're plugging away here and knocking some animals down.
Well, I will say to everybody, if you're not following, go ahead right after the show, go smash that follow button, because I mean the content you have now is good quality. So if it's going to get better, you definitely want to check this out.
Thanks.
So I don't even know what to say, man. Thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. I mean,
I appreciate you guys giving me the platform and the time. Thank you very much.
And I apologize for all the shit I was talking behind your back while I was sitting in the stand, not seeing anything. And all I'm reading on social media is, oh, this big bear. I'm like,
I love it. That's great.
So with that, now, Brian, again, thank you for taking the time out. I know you're a busy guy. You got a family and everything, and it's a lot to take some time out, and sit here and talk hunting. But, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And I'm sure the audience does too. And for everybody that's going to see this in the future, it's definitely a story that needs to be told. So thank you again for coming on and sharing this with us.
Thanks a lot.
So with that, everybody, thank you for watching. Anybody that will be watching again in the future, please smash that subscribe button on the YouTube. If you're not following along, if you're not following Timber Life Outdoors, do the same. It takes 1 second and it costs you $0. Whatever you got to lose. So with that, we are going to sign off here from the final time in this Pursuit Live studio. The next episode of Pursuit Live, we will be in the new Only Bows Global headquarters, and it will be a special episode because we'll all be sitting in the new studio shooting the shit, getting ready to do some more deer hunting, since bear hunting didn't really work out for 1/3 of this conversation. So with that, everybody, thank you for joining. Tune in every week right here on Pursuit Live, Fridays, 8 p.m. We'll see you again, and good luck to everybody who's going out. Stay safe.